It wasn't memory that summoned you. It was you who became woven into memory's very fabric. We open on the edge of collapse, though no one knows it yet. 1,000 banners ripple like liquid flame beneath a storm-warmed sky, and at the very center of this forgotten world, a man falls from the air, not like a hero, not like a god, but like someone who shouldn't be here at all. Kelmiran lands hard on the obsidian floor of a ceremonial dais. The sound echoes through a hush so deep it feels ancient. His limbs are tangled in the long folds of his expedition coat, and as he groans struggling to rise, a ring of tall, glimmering figures draws back in the silent disbelief. Above him towers the artifact, a structure of crystal and metal, braided into a spire that hums like a living heart. For the first time in centuries, it pulses with light. They think he's the one. Cal blinks at the sky, dazed. I was just cataloging ruins, he mumbles, but his voice is drowned in the sudden gasp of 1,000 watching beings. His knees wobble, his vision blurs. He hits the floor again, and everything fades to black. 2 hours earlier, Cale was a mildly hungover archaeologist with a fading academic badge and too much curiosity for his own good. His team had dropped him off near the ruins of an off-limits site on Virilia, citing structural instability as a reason not to follow. Naturally, Kyle went in alone. He had not expected the ruin's interior to be warm, nor for the air to carry a scent like burnt ozone and violet root. Dust clung to his boots, and strange geometries pulsed faintly beneath his feet like veins in stone. At the heart of the chamber sat the vault, an altar-like construct that hummed softly as he approached. He touched it, not with intention, just a brush of his fingers along the edge. That was all it took. A pulse surged through him, his vision shattered into gold. Then came the light, and now wherever he has landed, it smells of incense and ocean spray, and the people surrounding him wear what looks like ceremonial armor fused with living metal. Kyle tries to stand again, and this time his knees lock. He catches a glimpse of the ground beneath him, black stone etched with symbols that are changing shape in real time. A voice rings out, clear and impossibly calm. By genetic inheritance, the balancer has returned. Cal stumbles upright. His arms rise instinctively as if he expects to be arrested. No, this is some mistake, he blurts. But it's too late. A woman in blue and white armor steps forward. Her gaze is cold, calculating. The ceremonial sword at her hip is purely symbolic, Cal thinks, but something tells him she could kill with her stare alone. This is Velda, though he will not learn her name until later. Right now, she looks as if she wants to remove his head for desecrating a sacred rite. Scan him, she orders curtly. A hovering prism descends from above, stopping inches from Cale's chest. Lights flicker. Symbols scroll along its edges. A silence follows. Then the aide holding the prism speaks in a hushed, reverent tone. Confirmed. Genetic resonance. Royal frequency. 0. The time code matches. Cal blinks. Time code. No, wait. This is a misunderstanding. I don't even live here. You live now, another voice says from behind the crowd. The artifact pulses again. Shadows lengthen unnaturally. Somewhere above the city, clouds curl into spirals. Cal turns to run, but he doesn't get far. The gravity shifts just slightly, as if the planet itself is holding him in place. It's not security tech. It's something older than machinery, older than memory. Then the Chancellor steps forward. He is draped in silver-threaded robes that shimmer with symbols Cale can't understand, and his face is lined with intricate golden filigree that moves like liquid thought. Cale Mirren, he intones, voice like thunder over velvet. By the awakening of the vault and the agreement of the codes, you are hereby recognized as balancer. You will accept the role, and the cycle will close. Cale opens his mouth to protest, but his skin begins to glow. Lines appear across his forearms, delicate and luminous, like circuitry etched beneath the flesh. They pulse in perfect rhythm with the artifact. His heart is beating in someone else's cadence. They do not let him leave. He is escorted by silent guards through crystalline corridors that hum underfoot. He is taken to a chamber beneath the central citadel, its walls covered with carvings of spiral stars and what appear to be variations of himself. He is given food, water, and a language implant. Then they begin asking questions. What planet are you from? When did you first contact the vault? Have you seen the echoes? Kel rubs his temples, increasingly frustrated. I was on a dig, alone. I touched the wrong thing. A few of them exchange glances. Not all look surprised. When he is finally left alone, Kyle lies on a sleep field that hums beneath him. The walls of the chamber glow softly pulsing in a rhythm that now feels disturbingly familiar. He closes his eyes, but sleep does not come. There is a sound, not in the room, inside him, like a whisper across bones, like someone remembering him backward. A phrase drifts into his mind. You are the end and the beginning. He does not know who said it. Hours later, the door slides open. Velda stands there, arms crossed. You're not the balancer, she says, voice razor sharp. Kale sighs. Finally, someone sane. You're a fraud, she adds. He leans back on his elbows. I didn't ask to be here, Commander Cold Shoulder. I'd rather be sipping tea and cataloging ruins. Velda walks into the room without being invited. Her armor doesn't clink. It absorbs sound. You shouldn't exist, she says, watching him. The time code only runs through direct descendants of the primal bloodline. That bloodline was eradicated 3 centuries ago. Kale shrugs. Maybe someone missed a spot. Her jaw tenses. This isn't a joke. Neither was the trapdoor I fell through. They stare at each other. The tension is thick but not entirely hostile. Velda's eyes narrow. You're not afraid. I am, he admits. But everything is so insane, my fear has nowhere left to go. After a pause, she says, follow me. Someone wants to see you. Let me guess, the person who explains the rules right before things get worse. She says nothing. Outside, the city glows in twilight hues. Buildings rise like frozen music. Hovercraft drift by slow and silent. The stars above spiral in unfamiliar patterns, and the air smells like heated stone and faint citrus. Kyle follows Velda into a tower without doors. It opens for him, only for him. They enter a chamber filled with softly levitating data rings and lines of light that shape themselves into thought forms. At its center stands a woman wrapped in a coat that seems to ripple between dimensions. Malus, Velda says. The woman does not look up. So, the human carries the frequency. Interesting. Kyle steps closer. What is that, he asks. Malus finally looks at him. Her eyes reflect galaxies, your genome, and the vault's memory of you. Kyle's mouth goes dry. Wait, does the vault have a memory? Malus nods. It is a memory. That is its purpose. That is what you triggered. Not a machine. A timeline. Kyle sways. But I don't belong here. You do, she says simply. The vault does not make mistakes. The hum beneath his skin deepens. The world feels less solid, and somewhere far beneath the crust of the planet, in a place where time sleeps with one eye open, the Vault of Echoes remembers Kale Marin's name. The next morning arrives with a weight that Kale cannot explain. Not heaviness in the air, nor pressure in the room, but something internal. Like waking up with someone else's memories stitched to the inside of your ribs. The soft glow from the walls of his chamber continues its rhythm, faint pulses aligned to a beat he has never heard, but now feels as if he has always known. Cal sits upright, waiting for the dream to fade. But it does not. The voice in the dream had sounded like his own, only older, tired, and it had said just one thing. Don't trust the loop. Before he can make sense of that, the door slides open. Velda stands there unblinking. Get up. The council requires your presence. Cal frowns. Do they always summon people before breakfast, or is this just part of the ancient prophecy? She does not reply. Instead, she turns and begins walking down the corridor. Kyle sighs and follows, brushing a hand over his forearm, where faint glowing lines had appeared again overnight. They vanish when touched, like they are shy. As they walk, the corridors hum faintly with power. The walls of the citadel are not made of stone, but of some semi-organic alloy that shifts in color as they pass. Cal notices that some doors open only after he passes, even when Velda is leading. Why do they keep saying I'm a genetic match? He asks, trying to distract himself from the way the walls are whispering. Velda's voice is calm but sharp. The artifact stores the original code of the primal bloodline. No false match is possible. Your genome carries the complete sequence. I'm not even Varelian. Apparently you are. That silences him for a while. The council chamber is circular and vast, a spiral of platforms rising around a central speaking platform. Light filters from above through invisible conduits, making the whole room glow with quiet authority. The council members are already in place, their robes inscribed with floating glyphs. Their faces are calm, alien, unreadable. In the center, the chancellor steps forward. His eyes are gold, not in color, but in substance, like molten metal frozen in thought. Cal Mirren, he says you carry the time code. Do you understand what that means? Cal lifts his shoulders slightly. Not really. I was just digging in the wrong place. There is a pause. Then Malus steps forward from the side of the room. She holds a crystalline tablet that floats in her palm. The time code is not only genetic, it is entangled with memory and potential. Only one of primal descent can awaken the vault. A diagram appears above her hand. Kale sees it as a strand of DNA, but far more complex than anything on Terra. Segments shift and rotate, revealing embedded codes written in some language older than language itself. This is your sequence, Malus continues. It matches the one encoded in the artifact. There is no question. Kyle looks at the floating helix. So I'm what Royalty Chancellor Dranier's voice remains neutral. You are the balancer, the one meant to close the third cycle. Kyle spreads his hands. That sounds important, and also very undefined, Malus answers. The third cycle is the final age predicted by the time architects. It is marked by instability and collapse. Only the balancer can navigate the code and seal the path to destruction. Velda speaks from behind him, or he could accelerate it, if misused. Kyle turns. I'm not trying to misuse anything. I don't even know how to access it. Malus tilts her head. You already have. When you touched the vault, you initiated resonance. It responds only to your pattern. The Chancellor steps forward again. You were chosen not by us, but by the artifact itself. That is how the Virelian lineage was preserved, not in names, but in echoes of time. Kale frowns. So this is a job offer I can't refuse. Dranier inclines his head. You have a responsibility, not a choice. Kyle takes a slow breath. He wants to deny it, to laugh, to say they are wrong. But the symbols that glow in his skin, the pull he feels toward the artifact, the dreams that feel more like memories, all argue otherwise. After the session, Velda escorts him to the inner sanctum of the vault once more. The city outside flickers faintly. Kyle wonders if the sky is always that shade of metallic blue, or if his arrival has begun to shift things already. You didn't seem thrilled back there, Kyle says to her as they descend a narrow platform. Velda does not look at him. I am loyal to Virelia, not to accidents, harsh, but fair. She stops and faces him. You arrived at the moment of highest prophecy. You hold a code that should not exist. Everything about you feels like manipulation. And we do not survive manipulations here. We survive control. Kyle raises an eyebrow. You ever think maybe it's the other way around? That control is the illusion and chaos is what got us this far? Velda's face tightens. Chaos is what ended the second cycle. They continue in silence. Inside the vault, Malus is waiting. The artifact towers before them, now brighter and more active than before. Streams of light spiral around it, carrying fragments of glyphs and echoes of voices Kale does not recognize. He steps closer. The hum intensifies. Malus looks up. It remembers you. Cal glances at her. How can a rock remember anything? It is not stone. It is time frozen and encoded. Memory and intent built into a living equation. Kyle lifts a hand toward it, unsure if he wants to touch it again. The last time everything changed. But something pulls at him now. Something warm and terrifying. Will it hurt? Malus watches him closely. Only if you resist. Cal presses his palm to the surface. A rush of sound floods his mind. No noise. Words. Songs. Screams. Thousands of voices from different eras layered over one another. His knees buckle. Velda steps forward to catch him, but the energy field holds them apart. Kyle is inside the artifact's memory now, and he sees himself, but older, weathered, standing atop a ruined Virelia alone, speaking into a storm of light. Kale tries to speak, but the vision dissolves. He gasps and pulls his hand away. Malus steadies him. You saw it. He nods, trembling. Was it the future, he whispers? Melis does not answer directly. It is one of many outcomes. The vault stores them all, but the one most often repeated is tied to you. Kale's breath catches. What happens, you become the cause. That night, Kale sits alone on a terrace high above the city. The stars of Virilia are different from Terra's, but somehow he knows their names. Not learned knowledge, remembered. Velda finds him there. She does not speak for a long time. Finally, Kale says, "What happens if I fail?" She replies softly. The cycle collapses. Time folds in on itself. We become memories without form. Kale looks at her. "And if I leave, you can't," Velda says. "Not anymore. You are part of the equation now." Kale closes his eyes, and that phrase from his dream returns. Do not trust the loop. Rain falls in thin silver sheets, slicing across the sky like strands of time unraveling. It is not natural rain. Virelia's atmosphere, charged by ancient filtration nodes in artificial seasons, regulates precipitation precisely. Yet tonight the pattern glitches. The rain arrives unscheduled, falling only over the vault of echoes. Kel watches from the observation window, one hand pressed lightly to the pane. The city stretches far below lights, blinking in quiet patterns. Something feels out of place, not in the city, in himself. The patterns on his arms have returned even more vivid, even more intricate. They wind from his wrists to his shoulders, now softly glowing beneath the skin, like buried constellations. Velda's voice comes from the doorway. It's starting. Kale doesn't turn. The rain, the distortion, it's no longer random. He turns then and sees that her face is pale beneath the blue markings of her rank. There is no armor this time, just a simple cloak and the weight of tension in her shoulders. Where Kale asks, 3 locations. The sand prism fields the hollow spire and near the city perimeter. All within the same time arc. Cal frowns. How can that be possible? According to Milas, Velda says, walking to the edge of the chamber, the anomalies are reacting to you, to your emotional state. Your presence may be an anchor, but you are also a disturbance. Kyle lets out a dry laugh. So I'm the solution and the problem. Classic. Velda does not smile. Her gaze is fixed on the rain. Kyle glances at her. You really don't like me, do you? I don't trust you, she replies. There's a difference. Because I'm human. No, because you carry something too powerful to be understood, and you don't even want it. Cal looks away. You think I wanted to fall through a ceiling into your prophecy? No. But I think part of you did. She says it quietly, like it hurts to admit. Later that evening, they walk together to the lower vaults where Malus has set up a mobile quantum interface to study the recent distortions. The chamber buzzes with low hums, data glyphs spinning in concentric rings around a spherical projection of Virelia. Red spots blink across the image like infection points. 3 ruptures, Malus says. Same structure, same energy signature, all within a 5-minute differential. Temporal inversion layered with spatial echoing. Cal raises an eyebrow. Can you explain that for someone who studied ancient pottery instead of physics? Malus touches the projection. The 3 red points glow brighter. They are identical events in different locations. Not copies, not simulations. The same moment occurs multiple times. Kyle stares at the map. Is that possible? Milas doesn't answer at first. Then she looks at him. You've seen a version of yourself already, haven't you, in the artifact? In your dreams. Kyle nods slowly. Older. Tired. He told me not to trust the loop. Velda steps forward. What loop? Kale's voice is quiet. He didn't say. Just that I shouldn't trust it. But I think I'm already in it. Malus turns toward a long console and activates another series of streams. Footage appears grainy at first, then sharper of the 3 rupture zones. Each one shows a figure standing near the epicenter. The angle is unclear, the image warped by energy feedback. But the figure is unmistakable. It is Kyle. 3 times. Kyle's breath catches. That's not me. I was here. Milas responds without looking away. Yes. And no. Velda stares at the projection. Is this a trap? Milas shakes her head. It's a signature trace, like a temporal fingerprint. If this were an illusion, the energy would decay. Instead, it is repeating. Consistent, Cal whispers. So there are multiple versions of me, or different iterations trying to complete the same action. Malus turns to face him. Or worse. You are leaking. He blinks. Leaking. Your consciousness is not fixed. The artifact has synchronized you with its deeper layers. If your mind slips, it might act in multiple locations simultaneously. Kale steps back. So I could be fragmenting. Malus nods. And each fragment could be acting independently, following traces of your past or your future. Velda's hand goes to the hilt of her ceremonial blade, though it is symbolic here. The gesture is not. What if one of these fragments becomes hostile, she asks. Kale looks between them. Hostile against who? Milas replies, against yourself. That night, Kale is restless. The palace chamber feels too large, too still. The walls do not hum. The lights do not pulse. It is as though the room has been cut from time. He lies on the sleep platform, watching the faint lines on his arm glow and fade. They move like a living script, always changing. He wonders if they are messages, warnings, a language only the vault understands. Sleep takes him slowly like fog rising, and he dreams again. He is standing at the edge of the city. Ruins stretch around him. Fires flicker in the distance. The sky is red. In the center of the destruction stands another Kale, older, again face partially scarred. This one does not speak. He draws a blade. Kale stares at him, and suddenly he understands. The future version is not here to warn him. He is here to stop him, before the loop begins again. Kale jerks awake, heart pounding. His room is empty, silent. The walls begin to glow with the pattern of the artifact. And a voice speaks, not aloud but within his skull. You are the seed and the flame. At dawn, Kale walks alone to the terrace above the vault. The sky is calm again, but he can feel the weight of timelines brushing against each other. It is like standing inside a clock with a dozen ticking hands all out of sync. Velda finds him there. You look older, she says. Kale does not turn. I feel like I've lived 3 lives in the last 24 hours. She steps closer. Malus wants to send a probe into the distortion. It will need your resonance pattern to navigate. Kale nods. Let's do it. Velda hesitates. You're changing. That's why I came. Your skin, your voice, your focus. You are becoming something else. Kale smiles faintly. You're starting to sound like you care. She does not answer. He turns. Velda, if I lose myself, if I become what he is, I need you to stop me. She does not flinch. I will. There is no threat in her voice, only sorrow. The sky begins to shimmer again. The artifact calls. Cal steps toward the chamber once more. The Vault of Echoes no longer waits passively. Its light pulses have become more frequent, and the ground around the structure vibrates in soft, rhythmic intervals. Something is accelerating, or unraveling, or both. Cal stands at the threshold of the artifact chamber, once more flanked by Malus and Velda. The energy field that surrounds the core is thinner now, almost beckoning him in. Within the vault, memory and future mix together like oil and water, struggling for separation. Malus taps the floating interface she assembled earlier. The probe is ready. It will phase through the tear near the sand prism fields. We've loaded your resonance pattern into its lattice. Without it, the distortion would crush it. Kale crosses his arms. And what exactly is it supposed to find in their versions, Malus says plainly, and records of what they tried to change. Velda watches him closely. If something inside tries to influence you, ignore it. Illusions are common in these folds. Kale nods. He steps closer to the artifact as the probe launches. A beam of focused light shoots into the swirling map, hovering above the crystal altar. The beam hits one of the red blinking distortion points and disappears. The room holds its breath. Kyle closes his eyes. Inside his mind, the hum returns. But now it has a voice. The probe's data appears slowly fragmenting as it arrives. The visuals are hazy, corrupted by quantum interference, but the outline is clear enough to make Kale's chest tighten. There he is, again, standing inside the distortion, speaking, but the probe does not capture his voice, only his actions. He kneels in front of a broken form, Velda injured, breathing weakly. Kale watches in silence as his future self lifts. Her holds her for a long moment, then turns toward the tear and walks into it alone. The footage ends. Silence follows. Velda looks away first. We knew there were loops, but this one carries memory. Malus shakes her head. No, this is not a memory. This is an echo with intention. Cal steps back from the console. He's trying to change something. Or fix it, Malus says softly. Velda speaks again more sharply now. Or make sure it happens exactly as it always did. Cal turns toward them both. Then what do we do, Malus answers. We find the central distortion. There's a core somewhere inside the temporal field. Something stabilizes the loop. If we can reach it, we might be able to confront the original fracture. Kyle runs a hand through his hair. Let me guess, I'm the only one who can enter. Malus does not respond. That is enough to answer. By nightfall, Kyle is pacing. The patterns on his skin have become permanent now, glowing even in sleep. The vault no longer reacts passively to his presence. It tunes itself to his breath, his pulse. Malus believes it may have merged with his perception. He is not just part of the artifact now. He may be the last piece of it. Velda finds him in the lower atrium, where the remains of old ceremonial armor line the walls like preserved memories. She steps beside him and picks up a relic from a stand, a gauntlet woven with filamentous wires and hardened quartz. This belonged to my predecessor, she says. He fought to keep the timeline closed during the second disturbance. Died with his mind split between three potential outcomes. Kale studies the gauntlet. You're not trying to scare me, are you? I'm trying to warn you, Velda replies. Your presence has already changed Varelia. The rain. The sky shifts. Some citizens are reporting dreams that are not theirs. Kale exhales. So I'm a walking paradox. Velda doesn't deny it. She hesitates, then steps forward holding the gauntlet up to his arm. It might help anchor you when the distortion deepens. Keeps your perception from scattering. Kale lifts his arm. Her hands are steady as she fits the gauntlet to his forearm. It tightens and sinks with the lines of light under his skin, creating a resonance. Kyle feels the hum of it, but more than that, he feels her hands, the care in her touch, the warmth of someone choosing to believe in him despite everything. You know, he says you're a lot more human than you pretend to be. Velda pulls away. Don't insult me. Kale smiles. Too late. There is a flicker of something in her eyes. It was almost an amusement. Almost. Later, Malus leads them to the vault's interface chamber. A massive spiral map has formed in the center, swirling with data points and temporal fragments. Kyle stares at it, trying to focus, but the map seems to change when he looks at it too long. It shifts, showing different versions of himself in different points. You're drawn to one of them, Malus says. Cal nods slowly. I think he's the one who remembers the first fracture. Malus adjusts the map. We can align your frequency to that node. It will be painful and incomplete, but you may see what he saw. Velda steps forward. If this goes wrong, pull him out immediately. Malus nods. Cal sits in the center of the spiral and closes his eyes. The map contracts. Light floods his senses, and suddenly he is not in the chamber anymore. He is on a battlefield, sky burning, time reversing in pockets around him. He runs through a storm of voices. His body is not his own. His arms are stronger. His mind is heavier. He reaches a central altar surrounded by broken fragments of the artifact, and there she is. Velda, not dead, but looking at him with fear. You're not him, she says. Kale tries to speak, but the world collapses into white. He wakes on the floor of the vault, gasping. Velda kneels beside him, steadying his shoulders. Kale's voice is hoarse. I've been there before. I saw it. The fracture happened when I chose to remove the core. Malus steps forward. You tried to destroy the loop, Kale nods. But it didn't end. It restarted. I became the loop. Velda's hand tightens on his shoulder. Then we must stop you from doing it again. Kale meets her eyes. No, he says. We must stop me before I try. Malus stares at him unblinking. You intend to face your future self. Kale breathes in slowly, and the vault pulses around them. Yes, the vault of echoes darkens, not from loss of power, but from anticipation. The artifact seems to fold inward, as if bracing itself. Its once luminous threads pulse deeper, now shifting from pale gold to a color Kale cannot describe. Not red, not violet, something between memory and warning. Kale stands before the map with Malus and Velda beside him. The chamber is colder than it should be. Or maybe that is just in his blood now. Time is folding again, Malus says, eyes scanning the spiral projection. But this time it is not planetary. It is personal. The loop has begun its cycle. Cal watches as the map shrinks inward. The fragments of himself are now drawing closer together, spiraling toward a convergence point. What happens when we meet? He asks. Malus does not look away from the data. Either fusion or annihilation. Velda folds her arms. You don't seem particularly concerned about which. Malus shrugs lightly. Both solve the loop, one more permanently than the other. Kyle snorts. Comforting. The council meets in an emergency session. High over the city in the glass observatory chamber, Cal stands at the center as dozens of holographic members cast their votes in silence. Chancellor Dranner speaks the final words. By directive of the High Temporal Accord, the balancer is authorized to confront his own future resonance. What must be undone shall be undone if the chain is to be broken. Kyle leans slightly toward Velda as they exit. Did he just give me official permission to fight myself? More or less, she replies. Veralia is built on polite formality. Even apocalyptic events must be approved properly. Outside, Kale squints into the distant sky. A single beam of distortion light stretches upward, anchored to a fissure beyond the old ceremonial cradle, once used for selecting heirs in the era before the artifact went silent. Now it glows again, awaiting someone who has already come, awaiting a self who never left. That's where he'll be, Cal says quietly. Velda studies the line of energy. It's symbolic. Of course it would be there. Kyle nods once. He wants me to understand. Malus joins them. He wants to be understood. Kyle glances at her. Is there a difference? Malus gives no answer. Preparation is brief. The vault sinks one final time with Cal's mind imprinting coordinates he does not fully comprehend into the deepest part of his memory. Not thoughts, instincts, as if it is placing a seed inside him, one that will grow the moment he reaches the core of the distortion. Velda equips him with a cloak woven from stabilized temporal thread. It will help ground his physical form, she says, should the timeline begin to fracture. She hands him a curved blade forged from harmonized matter. Not a weapon, a key. It will respond to the future Kale's signature. Kale lifts it, feels the hum in his arm. This was made for him. Velda responds quietly, it is made for you. As he turns to leave, she grabs his wrist. Her voice lowers. If you see me dying again, know that I do not want to be your reason. Kale hesitates. You were never my reason. There is a pause, a silence that stretches just a moment too long. Then Velda leans forward and presses her forehead gently to his. A gesture of honor, a gesture of trust. Return, she says softly. Kale does not reply. He just walks into the light. The world inside the distortion is neither sky nor land. It is a memory-given shape. Cal steps onto a field of mirrored stone, each reflection showing him as he was, is, and could be. Wind blows, but it carries no air. Instead, it is filled with whisper phrases spoken across timelines layered into sound without language. He walks forward. At the center of the field stands a version of himself, older, hair threaded with silver, face scarred. This Kyle does not turn when he speaks. You came later than I expected, Cal replies. Maybe I needed time to believe it was real. The older Cal looks over his shoulder. It's all real. That's the curse. They study each other in silence. Same height, same voice, but different eyes. The future Cal has seen things Cal cannot yet imagine. Cal steps forward. Why did you try to kill me? Future Cal exhales. Because you always make the same choice. You always try to fix it. And every time you get a fracture. Cal's grip tightens on the harmonized blade. So you became the loop to stop me? No, the older version says quietly. I became the loop trying to end it. And I failed. Cal's heart beats faster. Then help me do it right this time. Future Cal finally turns fully. I don't trust you. There is no hatred in his voice, only sorrow. They fight, but it is not like a duel of warriors. It is like clashing thoughts made physical. Each blow is an idea, each parry a memory. Cal moves with instinct, his blade responding not to muscle but to emotion. The future Cal anticipates everything. He has done this before, countless times, but something is different this time. Kyle hesitates. The older Kyle strikes him down. Kyle falls to one knee, gasping. I tried, future Kyle says, voice breaking, but you always hesitate. Kyle looks up. Because I still believe in choice. The older Kyle lifts his blade. Kyle closes his eyes, and then the blade stops hovering inches from his neck. Because the future Kyle is trembling. For the first time, he doubts himself. Kyle rises slowly. What if we merge, he asks. Not one killing the other, but both remember. The older Kyle is silent. Kyle steps closer. If I die, you take my place. If you die, I take yours. Either way, nothing changes. But if we become one, maybe the artifact will reset. Maybe the loop ends here. The older Kyle breathes in deeply. Then he drops the blade. They embrace. And the field of mirrors shatters around them. Light swallows everything. Kale wakes, but not in the chamber. He is inside the vault. No longer standing, he feels no body, no breath, only presence. Melis's voice echoes faintly. Consciousness stabilized. The loop is sealed. Velda's voice is softer. Kyle, can you hear us? He cannot answer, but he is there, inside the artifact, forever. And for the first time since the beginning of the loop, the vault is silent, at peace. The world does not end, at least not in the way they feared. When the vault of echoes stops humming, the silence is not one of absence. It is a held breath, a reverent pause, like the planet itself is waiting to see what comes next. And in that moment, a new kind of future begins to write itself into the seams of Varelia. Velda stands just outside the artifact chamber. Her hands are clenched behind her back, the gauntlet on her right wrist still warm from the resonance. The lights have faded, and the spiraling glyphs that once danced across the vault's surface have stilled. No sparks, no surges, only stillness. Melis, she says barely above a whisper. Report. Melis stands at the control interface, her eyes not blinking, her fingers frozen above the control glyphs. Consciousness stabilizes. Temporal current has ceased collapsing. The loop appears sealed. Velda looks past her toward the center of the vault. Kyle's body is no longer there, not in any physical sense. Only the impression remains, a faint outline in the air like something once bright had passed through and refused to be forgotten. Can you reach him? Velda asks. Melis hesitates. Not in the traditional sense. His neural patterns were absorbed, stored as waveform memory. He exists now within the vault's core. Alive, Melis turns, her silver eyes flickering. Define alive. His biological form has ceased, but his consciousness, it is present, integrated. Velda exhales slowly. The weight in her chest is both heavier and lighter. Kyle had saved them, at a cost they had not dared to name. Later the council gathers. The Chancellor does not speak at first. No one does. They all stare at the empty space projected above the ceremonial platform where the balancer's signature had once rotated. The icon has changed. No longer the open spiral. Now a sealed circle marked with a single glyph, the symbol for stillness. The vault is no longer active in the external sense, Melis explains. It responds only to internal inquiry now, which means it is aware, selectively, and Kale's imprint is controlling that function. The Chancellor leans forward. So we are under his rule. Melis smiles slightly. No, not a rule. Guidance. He cannot impose. He can only answer. And if we do not ask, Melis pauses, then he will remain silent. Velda rises. Her voice carries the calm authority of someone who has lived through fire. Let it be recorded. The balancer has chosen stasis over domination, sacrifice over rule. He will not guide unless summoned. The chamber remains still. Then slowly they all bow. In the following weeks, Varelia shifts, not violently, not dramatically, but like a ship correcting its course after drifting too close to the edge. The sky no longer pulses with residual energy. The fractures in time begin to close. Cities realign their internal chronologies. Even the atmospheric anomalies begin to fade. Still, changes remain. People begin dreaming in languages they do not speak. Some claim to see Kale in reflections not as a ghost, but as a presence standing just behind their own. Others hear fragments of his voice in the wind, especially when asking difficult questions aloud. The vault no longer hums, but when approached with sincerity, it sometimes pulses once in reply. One pulse, yes. Two pulses, no. Three pulses, wait. It became known across the world as the Balancer's Dialogue. Velda returns often, not as a soldier, not as a commander, but as someone who listens. She speaks softly into the silence, knowing that some part of him hears. Not just because of belief, but because she can feel it. In moments when the wind stills, when the floor beneath the vault warms just slightly under her feet, when her heart stumbles in her chest like it once did in his presence. One night she brings a sealed data crystal. She kneels beside the vault's core and places it gently on the platform. "It is your story," she says, "in our words. I wanted it recorded as we saw it. Not just the facts, the feelings, the things you left behind in us." There is no answer, but the vault glows faintly. One pulse. Yes. Melis spends her days cataloging the changes. She no longer believes in randomness. Her theories now revolve around intent, memory as a structure, not a byproduct, time not as linear progression, but as recursive insight. She builds a device called the memory link, not to control the vault, not to interfere, but to speak to Kyle, to hear him speak back. It works only once. She activates the link while standing at the threshold. A soft voice answers. "I remember your laughter." Melis says nothing. The link flickers. Then Kale's voice again. "Tell Velda I kept my promise." Then the link dies. Melis does not cry, but she touches the artifact with her bare hand, and the vault pulses once. The world begins to study Kale not as a savior, but as a question. Who chooses to sacrifice their entire being for strangers, who lets go of the past when the future is uncertain, who walks into their own destruction, knowing it will echo forever? The children of Virelia grow up learning that the Balancer was not a warrior, not a ruler, not a god. He was a man who asked the question no one dared to speak. What if I have a fracture? And then chose to answer it with silence. There are stories told among the people now that in the final instant, Kyle and his future self did not clash. They wept together, and in the space between their thoughts, they saw everything they might have become and let go of all of it. Velda stands once more at the vault's edge years later. Her hair is streaked with silver now. Her voice is quieter, but her presence has not diminished. She presses her palm to the vault. "I'm still here," she whispers. The vault answers with a single pulse. Yes. The wind over the ceremonial cradle is softer now, no longer distorted by temporal rifts or veiled warnings. It carries warmth from the southern skies and the scent of flowering helier vines. Virelia breathes again. Kale Mirren is gone, but not lost. Deep inside the vault, his presence persists. Not in voice or flesh, but in resonance. A hum that responds not to command, but to purpose. He is not ruler, not prisoner, not artifact. He is memory sealed within the very structure that once chained time to its cycle. Above ground, Melis stands atop the observation tower, watching the last of the anomalies fade from the northern quadrant. The loops have ceased. Patterns, once repeating, have begun to diverge. Time, for the first time in centuries, is moving freely. She speaks into her data relay. This is temporal node 7. All readings have stabilized. No flux echoes detected in the last cycle. Recommend declassifying this sector. A calm voice answers from the relay. Confirmed lead quantum architect. Declassification logged. She does not smile. Melis rarely does, but her eyes soften as she watches a pair of young children play below in the plaza where once a time rupture nearly devoured an entire district. They are chasing shadows with giggles loud enough to reach the tower's base. Balance, she whispers, not to them, but to herself. Not all is simple in the wake of salvation. Political fractures appear where temporal ones once existed. Factions that once bowed to the artifact's authority now question whether a consciousness without body should guide Virelia at all. Some demand the vault be sealed permanently. Others propose it be dismantled. Neither group understands what it is. Velda sits in the inner sanctum of the new council assembly, silent as the representatives argue. Her presence is not for show. It is a warning. A representative slams his hand on the projection table. If the vault answers only to emotional resonance, it is vulnerable. We cannot govern a world through feelings, another voice replies. It has saved us. The vault responded only when Kale felt intent. That is not vulnerability. That is integrity. The debate continues. Velda does not speak, but her gauntlet begins to glow faintly. A message arrives on her interface. From Malus. Observation confirmed. Vault responded at 0400 to an inquiry from a child. The response pattern matched Kale's voice signature. Words, be kind. Velda closes the message. Only then does she speak. Perhaps that is the only law we need. The chamber falls silent. That night, Velda walks alone through the upper tiers of the capital. The city has begun to open again, both literally and metaphorically. Walls that were once shielded from hypothetical invasions are being dismantled. Gardens grow where watchtowers once stood. She turns a corner and finds herself near the Eastern Memorial Grove. The wind shifts. A whisper rides it. Kale's voice. Not loud, not summoned, only felt. You still carry too much weight. She does not answer aloud, only lowers her head. She walks past the grove where a sculpture stands at the center. It is not grand. It does not depict victory. Only a simple human figure, arms open, gaze forward. The plaque beneath it reads, "He balanced what could not be measured." Children leave gifts there. A folded note, a time-worn trinket, a carved pebble with a drawing etched into it. Small tributes for a man they never knew, but somehow always felt. Velda kneels beside the statue. I still feel you, she says quietly. Not every day, but enough. The wind answers in a way only she can understand. A flicker of warmth behind her eyes, then silence. Malice continues her work at the tower, no longer chasing anomalies. Now she observes the fabric of time like a gardener studies new shoots. The data stream changes again. She sees a pattern forming that was not predicted. A small cluster of resonant pulses deep inside the vault. It is not Kyle. It is not entirely separate either. She studies it for hours. Then she calls Velda. You need to come, she says simply. Velda arrives before the next rotation ends. Malus meets her at the base of the vault. They stand in the soft light, the sky above them tinged with the last pink traces of day. I think something is growing, Malus says. Velda frowns. Growing Malus gestures to the base of the artifact. A subtle pattern moves across the lower surface like roots stretching beneath a pond. I think Kale left something behind. Not just memory, possibility. Velda steps closer. A symbol pulses from the stone, one she has never seen before. Malus speaks softly. It does not match any known glyph. It's new. Velda touches it. The surface responds. Not with words, not with images, but with feeling, hope. Elsewhere, far beyond the capital, deep in the ruins of the vault's twin chamber, buried beneath the planet's northern pole, a long dormant system reactivates. Soft blue light fills the chamber. For the first time since the Second Galactic Unification, a beacon pulses into space. Not a distress signal, not a call for war. Only this balance achieved, awaiting contact. Beyond the pulse of stars, deep within the void between worlds, the signal travels. It moves not through space alone, but through the corridors of old alliances, forgotten treaties and sensor networks, long believed to be obsolete. Across abandoned satellites and dormant relay stations, the beacon carries one message, simple and resonant. Balance achieved, awaiting contact. And somewhere someone answers. Not immediately, not with ships or armies, but with a breath held across civilizations, a murmur passing through political chambers, and encrypted interstellar comms. Virelia is no longer silent. That alone is enough to change the shape of the galactic map. Back on the planet's surface, Velda walks the perimeter of the old cradle district. The sky above is quiet, its color calm. The vault's energy has stopped interfering with atmospheric conditions, but the sky still seems more watchful now, as if it is learning how to be blue again. She watches workers dismantle the last of the emergency towers. Each one had once projected temporal shields to contain the fractures. Now they are useless relics of an era that has somehow ended, or evolved. Malus joins her near the site where the first rupture had appeared. The land here still shows signs of stress. Glass-veined soil trees with twisted trunks, birds that sometimes fly backward for a moment before realigning themselves. It's healing, Malus says. Not fast enough, Velda replies. Malus gestures to the sky. Nothing about time is fast. The deeper it is wounded, the slower it breathes. Velda does not respond right away. Then she says, "You believe it's still him in there?" "I know it is," Malus answers. "Every test confirms it. The vault is stable but reactive. That means intent, and nothing else on this planet ever responded with so much compassion." Velda watches a child chasing a floating drone nearby. Her voice lowers. "Then he's still protecting us." Malus nods. He always was. The following day brings new tension. An unidentified ship enters Virelia's orbit. No weapon systems are active. Its design is for an olden structure, but maintained with care. The diplomatic insignia is unreadable at first. After decoding, Malus whispers what no one else dares say aloud. Pre-Unification Council Crest. The Second Galactic Unification ended over 2 centuries ago. Its systems fell into silence or war. For a vessel to bear that seal now suggests either a long-forgotten origin or a sleeper faction watching from the shadows. Velda orders a passive scan. No aggressive moves. The ship remains still for hours. Then it transmits a brief message. Vault confirmed. Open for parley. The question is strange, almost polite. Velda contacts Malus privately. What do we tell them? Malus stares at the message for a long time before answering. We tell them the vault is closed, but the mind inside it listens. The ship sends a smaller shuttle toward the surface. It lands near the old Southern Observatory far from the capital. The figures that step out are humanoid, but their features are masked by adaptive armor. They do not draw weapons. Instead, they carry a single crystal tube sealed with encryption glyphs. Velda meets them with 3 guards. Malus stands nearby monitoring readings. The lead emissary bows slightly and presents the crystal tube. This is the Echo Record. It contains fragments of a civilization that was lost during the Purge. It was once connected to yours. We were told the vault might respond. Malus takes the tube gently. You are descendants, in a way, the emissary replies. Or perhaps siblings divided by history. Velda watches Malus carry the tube to the vault's outer ring. The moment it passes into the vault's radius, a surge of light ripples outward. Not dangerous, not volatile, just acknowledgement. The vault glows once, then a second time. Yes, then wait. Inside the artifact, something stirs. Not like awakening, more like remembering. Kale's consciousness, embedded deeply in the vault's memory structure, feels the approach of something familiar. Not from Virelia, not from his own fragmented timelines. This presence carries the weight of another branch of history, another outcome once denied. He cannot speak, but he sends a feeling, recognition. The vault glows again. Malus nods slowly. He remembers them. Velda turns to the emissary. Then you came at the right time. The emissary lowers his hood. Beneath it is a face not unlike Kale's. Human but different. A long-lost cousin in the evolutionary tree. One shaped by time and space apart from Terra or Virelia. Our ancestors knew yours, he says. Before the time chain fault, before the loops began. We were told a balancer would rise again, and when he did, we would know it was safe to return. Velda narrows her gaze. Return from where? The emissary's voice lowers. From hiding. That night, the vault pulses with a new pattern. 3 lights. One for memory. One for connection. One for invitation. Malus decodes the rhythm. It matches the artifact language used before the Purge. A dialect from Virelia's sister world lost when the time fractures began. She touches the surface of the vault and whispers, "You kept the door open." The vault answers. A brief flash of Kale's voice, soft as breath. Some things are worth waiting for. Velda hears it too, and for the first time in many rotations she smiles without sadness. Not because Kyle is back, but because he never left. At dawn, a procession gathers before the vault. No banners fly, no music plays. This is not a celebration. It is a recognition, quiet and sacred. The emissaries from the hidden colony stand beside Varelian scientists, commanders, scholars, and children. The vault rises behind them, unchanged in shape but transformed in meaning. Once a relic, now a voice. Velda stands at the front arms behind her back cloak, catching the wind. Malus steps beside her. They want to make contact again. More formal this time, not as visitors, as kin. Velda keeps her gaze on the horizon. Do you trust them? Malus thinks for a moment. I trust the vault's reaction, and Kale's response. Velda nods. That is enough. The emissary steps forward. His name is Solon, and though his voice is calm, there is something in his eyes that speaks of long nights beneath unfamiliar stars. Our records say we once shared breath with your ancestors, Solon says. We left not in betrayal, but in fear. The time chain fault destroyed everything we understood. We ran, but we remembered, Malus responds gently. And now Solon glances at the vault, which glows in steady rhythm. Now we return with what we have learned, and we offer it not in trade, in memory. He lifts a sphere from his satchel. It pulses with soft light. This is a seed of our world, not in soil but in thought. It contains our recorded histories, our languages, our ways of healing and building, and our failures. Malus reaches for it with both hands as if receiving something fragile. The vault pulses once as the sphere nears its core. There is no rejection, no warning, only a subtle warmth through the ground beneath their feet. A low vibration follows. Kyle's voice returns soft, but clear. Let it grow. The seed is planted near the vault's base, embedded into a platform designed centuries ago, but never used. Its surface adapts instantly, forming roots of light that reach deep into the earth. Energy pathways adjust. Not for control, for connection. Solon and his people begin mapping the shared technologies of their colony in Varelia. While the principles are familiar, their applications are strange, elegant, almost poetic. They do not use the language of domination or efficiency. Instead, their systems speak of harmony, a different philosophy of time, not linear, not circular, but collaborative. Melis spends long hours with them. She listens more than she speaks. For the first time in decades, she finds herself uncertain in a way that excites her. Their memory patterns differ, not archival, experiential. They store history through neural weaving. Memories are passed down not only through stories, but through guided dreaming. We do not fear forgetting, one of them says. We fear remembering without understanding. Melis writes that phrase on the walls of her lab. Meanwhile, Velda trains a new generation of temporal guardians. Not soldiers, not wardens, mediators. Their task is to recognize imbalance, not eliminate it. They study not just history but emotion, not just physics but consequence. Kel's philosophy has reshaped their purpose. He had fought not to win but to understand. He had sacrificed not to erase but to hold. Instructors teach his story without embellishment. He hesitated. He doubted. He chose anyway. That is what they teach, and the cadets listen. Some cry, some write, some stare at the vault at night, waiting for dreams they do not yet understand. Velda visits the garden beneath the vault more frequently now. The place has changed. Small, luminous flowers bloom in rings around the seed's platform. The soil hums faintly. A new energy circulates there. Visitors come not just to remember Kyle, but to speak aloud. Sometimes they ask questions. Sometimes they confess. Sometimes they just sit. The vault always listens. Not every message receives a pulse in reply. But that does not seem to matter. The act of speaking becomes sacred. One evening, as twilight settles across the capital, Milas stands before the vault with a question she has not dared to ask aloud. She closes her eyes and places her hand on the surface. Kale, are you still you? At first there was nothing. Then a soft wave of warmth. 3 pulses. Malus understands instantly. Yes, not as before, still as himself, evolved. She presses her forehead to the vault, and for a moment she swears she hears a laugh in the wind. Familiar, gentle, still him. Solon prepares to depart with a few of his companions, leaving behind their core colony to integrate with Varelia. His mission complete, he meets Velda one last time near the garden. You carry his memory with weight, he says. Velda nods. I carry his silence. It is louder than most voices. Solon places a hand on the edge of the platform. Do you think he will ever return? Not as a presence, but as a form. Velda does not answer immediately. Then she turns toward the vault, eyes soft. No, her voice is not mournful, but he doesn't need to. She walks away slowly, her silhouette framed by the garden's pale glow. Solon watches her for a long time, then bows to the vault. In the night that follows, the vault pulses only once. Not to answer, not to guide, just to say without words, I am still here. The stars above Virelia have changed, not in their placement, not in their physics, but in the way they are perceived. Stargazers speak of constellations that were once meaningless, now taking new forms. Shapes emerge in the night sky, patterns echoing ancient Virelian scripts and stories. Among them, one symbol appears more frequently than any other: the spiral within the circle, the balancer's mark. No decree had assigned it that name. The people did. On the edge of the eastern cliffs, children build it with pebbles. In the university districts, scholars etch it into their notes as shorthand for equilibrium. And at the heart of the capital, a sculpture is erected. Not tall or grand, but quiet. The spiral is inlaid with mirror stone, reflecting the sky by day and catching starlight by night. Velda watches as the final piece is set into place. She remains silent while the artisans back away. The statue does not commemorate a battle. There is no dramatic pose. It is only a single outstretched hand. Empty. Open. Milas approaches from behind the wind, tossing strands of her silvered hair across her face. He never wanted a monument, Velda says. This isn't for him, Malus replies. It's for those still searching. Velda tilts her head, searching for what. Malus looks up at the outstretched hand. Permission. To choose differently. The vault has grown quieter. It still pulses in response to deep inquiry or powerful resonance, but it has settled. Not asleep, but resting. The people interpret this as a sign of peace, that the loop no longer strains the system, that Kale within the vault no longer struggles to hold memory in place. Even so, Malus continues her studies. She keeps a constant feed of the vault's fluctuations, monitoring for anomalies that could hint at disturbance. Late one night, while reviewing energy patterns, she sees it. A blip, barely a flicker. An energy shift too brief to register as danger. But she knows the signature. Kyle's. Only it is not where it should be, not within the vault. It comes from beyond the northern polar line. Malus checks the reading again. Then she sends an encrypted message to Velda. Location pinged, matching Kale's core resonance. Recommend immediate travel. Within the hour, a transport vessel launches. The journey north is harsh. Even with planetary stabilization efforts, the polar regions remain unpredictable. Once torn by temporal fractures, they have not fully recovered. Snow and light swirl in strange patterns. Compass tools drift unless constantly realigned. Velda pilots the vessel herself. Malus sits beside her, eyes fixed on the sensors. Neither speaks until the transport breaks through the last atmospheric distortion and descends over a vast white plain. In the distance they see it, a structure, small, cylindrical, half buried in ice. Velda lands without ceremony. They approach the structure on foot. Each step crunches over ancient snow that has not been disturbed in years. The building is made of old Virelian alloy, but its design is different. Cruder, less ceremonial. A relic from before the unification. Malus brushes snow from the doorway. Her hand glows faintly as she presses against the access panel. It reacts, opening with a soft hiss. Inside, the air is warm, alive. They descend a staircase that coils inward like a spiral, echoing the vault itself. At the center, they find a chamber, and in that chamber stands a chair. Simple, empty, except for a thin strand of light suspended above it, pulsing in the same rhythm as the vault. Malus takes a breath. It's a link node. Velda frowns. Another vault number. A relay, one designed to separate a fragment of consciousness. A splinter. Malus scans the frequency. Her voice softens. It's him, a piece of him. Separated during the final merge. Not part of the loop, not part of the artifact. Velda walks slowly around the chair. Then why is it here? Why are we separated? Malus does not answer immediately. Then she looks up. He left it behind. On purpose. Velda rests her hand on the back of the chair. For what to be found, Malus whispers, but only if needed. They return to the capital with the relay sealed and moved under protected study. No public announcement is made. Only a small group is told. The core message is clear. The vault is whole, but part of Kale chose distance. Not exile, watchfulness. Solon the emissary is among the few informed. He visits the hidden chamber and stands before the link node in silence. When he finally speaks, his words are simple. I see you. The pulse responds. One single light. Yes. Weeks pass, then months. The seasons shift more gently now. The sky calms. The population grows slowly but steadily. There is hope, but also a deeper awareness that nothing remains perfect for long. Peace like time must be tended. The council convenes again, this time not to address a crisis, but to discuss the future. Malus presents her proposal for the Temporal Academy. Not a place for soldiers, a sanctuary for thought. Here Varelians and colonists will train in the philosophy of balance, the study of resonance, the responsibility of remembering. The council approves it without hesitation. Construction begins near the vault. Velda visits the site on the first day. She watches children place stones in the shape of spirals across the foundation, and she remembers. A man with uncertain eyes, a question spoken too late, a sacrifice made too soon. She whispers to the wind, I hope you know what you've started. And the vault, ever patient, ever still, responds with a warmth beneath her feet. Yes. Dawn rises slowly and golden over Varelia. Light spills across the towers of the capital, softening steel and stone with warmth. The sky holds a rare clarity, its blues unmarred by clouds or pulses. From the edge of the vault's garden, Velda watches the first students arrive at the newly completed Temporal Academy. They walk with quiet curiosity, some still young enough to be amazed by the sight of hovering transport lifts, others old enough to remember the era of ruptures. No one runs. Everyone watches their steps. Respect has taken root in this generation. Malus stands at the gate of the academy, flanked by instructors in simple robes of matte silver. She does not smile often, but this morning she does. A flicker of satisfaction passes across her expression as she greets each arrival. Velda approaches as the last student passes through. They came, Velda says, nodding toward the wide entrance doors. They always would, Malus replies. This is the first place in centuries built on curiosity instead of fear. Velda glances back at the vault, its surface silent but not lifeless. Do you think he would have taught here? Malus places a hand on her chest over her heart. He still might. The curriculum is not like any other in Virelia. There are no ranks, no exams scored by numbers. Lessons shift based on student resonance, guided by how they interpret time itself. Each learns differently, some through equations, others through music, some through silence. One student, a girl named Irene, begins speaking with the vault on her fourth day. She sits in the garden after evening study and hums softly to herself. Patterns of sound, simple tones. One evening the vault pulses in response, just once. She hums again. Another pulse. When she tells Malus the scientist does not laugh or correct her, she nods. Try listening between the pulses, Malus says. That is where his voice waits. Irene does. Weeks later, she draws a spiral on the side of her classmate's notebook and says, he said the spiral is not a trap. It is an invitation. Her classmates listen. No one questions her. The vault pulses once that evening, brighter than it has in weeks. Elsewhere in Virelia, the integration of Solon's people deepens. Trade flows freely now. Knowledge and culture exchange at a steady rhythm. Colonists share their memory-weaving techniques. In turn, Virelians offer access to their remaining artifacts and navigation systems. The results are staggering. Together, they develop a shared map of fractured timelines from multiple histories. Malus calls it the Spiral Archive. It stores not just events, but emotions tied to those events. It learns from regret and hope alike. When viewed in sequence, it reveals something extraordinary. There is no perfect future, no ultimate resolution, but there are always better choices. Velda visits the archive with a delegation one evening. She observes without speaking, watching as moments from long-lost branches unfold in projection. Some show Virelia burning, others show her standing beside Kyle, but in roles reversed. One sequence reveals Kale as the attacker, his mind fractured beyond healing. She watches that one twice. Then she closes her eyes and says softly, "Thank you for choosing the version that saved us." The vault pulses once. Yes. As peace settles into routine, the time of great urgency gives way to reflection. For Velda, that proves more difficult than action ever was. She was made for command, for response, for sharpness. But in this world, Kale helped create sharpness, has fewer edges to cut. She begins walking the capital in the early mornings, not for patrol, not for training, just to see. A child in the market recognizes her once and tugs on her cloak. "Are you the one who loved him?" the child asks. Velda kneels, not startled, only curious. "Who told you that?" the vault, the child answers, pointing toward the horizon where it glows faintly in the rising light. "It said you stayed." Velda considers her answer carefully. "I did." The child nods. "Then you must be the keeper." Velda tilts her head, of what the part of him that could still choose. That night, Velda stands again before the vault. She places her palm against the stone. It is cool beneath her hand, but a familiar warmth stirs at the edge of her senses. "You still listen," she says quietly. The vault pulses once. "I want to ask something selfish." Silence, then a soft pulse. "Yes. Is there still a part of you that wants to return?" Long pause, no pulse, then finally a faint shimmer through the surface. Not a pulse, a memory. Velda hears laughter, distant and warm, Kyle's voice not speaking, only existing. And then another shimmer. A new image appears on the vault's surface. A garden, a home, 2 chairs in the sunlight, empty, waiting. Velda blinks back the tears that threaten to rise. "Then I will wait," she whispers. No response comes. None is needed. The vault's glow deepens as night settles around it. The spiral archive expands with each passing cycle. What began as a simple mapping project becomes something more layered, more alive. Memories gathered from across timelines continue to drift into its system. Fragments of people who once were moments that might have been, and whispers of futures that could still emerge. Malis does not control the archive. No one truly does. She curates. She listens. She ensures it remains a place of learning rather than correction. It has become something sacred. One day, a student submits a recorded dream to the archive. In it, the student walks through a corridor made of stars. At the end of the path stands Kale, wearing clothes not of Virelia or the colonies, but of a world no longer charted. He does not speak. Instead, he writes a single word on the wall beside him. Balance. When Malis views the submission, she nods without comment. Some dreams are not dreams. At the edge of the shimmering plateau where the sky appears to fold into itself at dusk, a temporary station is constructed. Solon's people request the site to study the deeper resonance patterns flowing beneath the surface. According to their records, this area once housed a sub-network of the ancient time-weaving technology used during the first cycle. The station is quiet. Only 6 researchers are assigned. They observe, they log, they speak in low tones. On the 4th day, one of them disappears. No breach, no footprints. Only a final journal entry on the station's console. "He called me. I am not afraid." The message sends ripples through the capital. Velda visits the site herself. She enters the researchers' quarters. Nothing appears disturbed. A cup remains on the desk. A small pendant dangles from the ceiling, still spinning slightly. Malis joins her shortly after scanning for any anomaly. "There's no sign of rupture," she says. "But the resonance here, it's thick. Like the air is remembering something too deeply." Velda turns toward the open window. "You think Kale called her?" Malis does not answer immediately. "I think someone listened. And that was enough." Back at the vault, a change begins. Very subtle at first. The surface, once smooth and quiet, begins to form slow, deliberate patterns. Not glyphs, not words. Shapes that move as if they are alive. No two are the same. They appear for minutes, then vanish only to be replaced by something entirely different. The observers call them reflections. Some see faces, some see maps. Others see nothing at all. Velda watches them often. She notices that the shapes only appear when someone is watching with full attention. Not glancing, not thinking of other things, only when the mind is clear and open. One evening, she sits before the vault and waits. The shape that forms is a hand reaching upward, not desperate, steady, hopeful. She presses her hand to the vault and feels the warmth spread up her arm. Then the shape vanishes. She remains still for a long time. News arrives from the galactic border. A transmission, faint but unmistakable, reaches Varelia's outer listening stations. Another vault has been found, not on a world, floating between two collapsed stars. The message is encrypted in a dialect only partially understood. Scholars work day and night to decode it. Eventually, they succeed in translating one phrase: convergence incomplete, anchor required. Malus is summoned immediately. She reviews the data with a level of focus no one has seen in her for years. If this is true, she says, then Kale's vault is only one of several, possibly the first to stabilize. Velda stands nearby. Another consciousness inside Malus shakes her head. Not yet. This one is dormant, empty, waiting. Velda's expression tightens, waiting for what Malus looks to the sky. An answer. The council debates sending an expedition. Some fear disturbing the dormant vault. Others believe it may be the key to understanding why time collapsed in the first place. Velda speaks once during the discussion. If we had not approached ours, Kale would never have found us. Perhaps this one waits for someone else. Her words are met with silence, then quiet approval. Preparations begin. But the vault pulses 3 times that evening. The archive interprets the pattern. Not yet. The expedition is paused. Malus accepts the message without argument. Some doors must wait until the right hand reaches for them. The Temporal Academy hosts its first forum on open possibility theory. Students, colonists, and scholars gather to present models for how choice might ripple backward through time. One student proposes that the future might be the cause of the past. Another suggests that Kale's presence did not change history, but remembered it back into existence. Velda attends from the upper balcony. She listens without interruption. She finds herself smiling quietly when a boy no older than 10 steps forward and says, "Maybe the vault is just love that got too heavy, so it had to become a place." No one laughs. Even the instructors are quiet. Afterward, Velda finds the boy sitting beneath the statue of the balancer. She asks, "Where did you hear that?" He looks up at her with calm eyes. "I didn't hear it. I felt it." The vault pulses once. Later, Velda visits the garden. She kneels beside the platform where the memory seed still pulses faintly. Around it, new blossoms have begun to emerge. Soft blue petals warm to the touch. They have no name yet. No one planted them. They simply began to grow. She places her hand on the soil. "I still carry the silence," she says softly. The vault responds with a low hum. For a brief moment, she hears Kale's voice again. Not speaking to her, speaking with her, inside her thoughts. Not words, a feeling. As if he had always been listening even when she said nothing at all. The air over Virelia carries a weightless clarity, as though the planet itself has begun to exhale. The temporal fractures that once threatened to splinter history have vanished. Yet the echoes remain not in the sky or soil, but in the choices people make. The vault, now seen not as a device or deity, but as a living memorial, continues to respond, not with control, with presence. It does not speak unless spoken to. Even then, it chooses silence more often than not. And yet the silence is not empty. It listens. And from time to time, it answers with something deeper than words. In the archive hall, Malus finishes recording her final entry for the cycle. Her hands move carefully over the control panel as she adjusts the layers of data collected from the polar relay and from the colony archives. It has taken years to understand the scope of Kale's resonance. It reaches beyond what she once believed possible. He is not just in the vault. His presence moves through the energy lattice of the planet, through dreams, through memory, through choice. A soft knock interrupts her. Velda enters dressed in travel leathers, her cloak slung over one shoulder. Her expression is calm, but there is something beneath it, a quiet resolve that Malus knows too well. "You are going," Malus says. Velda nods. The council approved the limited expedition to the outer vault. "I want to be the one to speak first. If it responds, it should be someone who has carried Kale's voice." Malus closes the console. "Do you expect him to answer?" Velda walks to the edge of the archive's central platform. The spiral lights embedded in the floor glow under her footsteps. No, she says, but I think he might be listening. Malus joins her in silence. Then she speaks not to Velda, but to the room. When he entered the vault, I believed he would fade. Now I know better. He left something behind in all of us. Velda places a hand on her chest. He left something behind in me most of all. The journey to the edge of the system takes 6 days. The ship moves through clean space free from distortion, guided by the same resonance Kale once carried. The crew is minimal. Scientists, observers, no weapons, no broadcast systems, only careful recorders and watchers. The dormant vault floats in the shadow of 2 collapsed stars. Its surface is smoother than the Varelian structure, with no external spiral or glyph. Just one flat ring barely pulsing with residual light. It turns slowly as if waiting to be noticed. Velda stands on the observation deck as the ship aligns with the vault's orbit. She says nothing for several minutes. Then she speaks into the recording node. This is Commander Velda of Varelia. I come not with questions, only presence. No reply. She continues. We do not seek to awaken you, only to offer what was given to us. A name, a story, and a choice. Still, the vault remains quiet. The crew begins to settle into observation routines. Velda, however, does not return to her quarters. She sits by the viewing pane through the night. And as the stars shift, she finally hears it. Not a voice, a vibration. Deep, steady. The dormant vault pulses once, then again, then 3 times. Malus had taught her the meaning of that pattern. Not yet. Wait. Listen. Velda smiles, and she waits. In Varelia, the days continue without disruption. The temporal academy flourishes. The archive receives stories from across the world. Farmers, students, dreamers, children, all contributing to the spiral. Not seeking control, just connection. The vault responds less frequently now, but when it does, it offers simple truths. A pulse during sorrow, a hum during celebration. Sometimes nothing at all, and even that is its own kind of answer. One morning, a teacher brings a group of young students to the vault garden. They sit beneath the new blossoms, each child given a moment to ask one question. The vault does not answer most of them, until the smallest child, barely old enough to pronounce her words, speaks softly. Are you still dreaming? The vault glows, then pulses once. The teacher places a hand over her mouth. The class falls quiet. Then the girl smiles. Me too. Weeks later, Velda returns from the expedition. She has changed not in appearance, but in rhythm. Her steps are slower. Her words are more measured. When Malus asks what the vault said, Velda replies simply, it remembered him. Then she adds, it asked for nothing. They sit together by the archive, reading from the oldest entries Kale had dictated before the loop consumed him. His words are steady even when confused, hopeful even when trapped. One line returns often. To break the cycle, I must become one. Malus touches the line on the projection display. You did more than become it, she says aloud. Velda nods. You carried it. That night, Velda walks once more to the vault. She sits on the stone platform, legs crossed, hands resting gently on her knees. She says nothing for a long time. Then, eyes closed, she whispers into the quiet. I still feel your breath in mine. The vault answers with a single light, a whisper of memory, a moment of stillness. In that silence, she lets herself remember not the man who saved the world, not the being embedded in the heart of time, but Kyle, the man who arrived by accident, the man who questioned everything, the man who chose to stay. She breathes in and says, we are still choosing. The vault glows gently beneath her. Yes, the cycles turn quietly now. Varelia breathes in longer rhythms, each season unfolding with patience. No more fractures, no sudden loops. Time flows like a calm river, slow and deliberate, winding past the roots of memory and into the soil of what remains. The world Kale helped reshape no longer teeters on the edge. It grows. And growth, like time, cannot be rushed. The vault no longer surprises anyone. Its presence is constant, its voice no longer strange. It is not revered as a god. It is visited like a friend. Some come to sit and think. Others come to speak. Most come to listen. One afternoon, a young boy named Cian arrives alone. He is not old enough to enter the archive, but he carries a hand-drawn spiral on a piece of paper, folded and creased from the weight of carrying it everywhere. He sets it down on the platform beside the vault and whispers, "My brother says you're just old tech, but I don't believe that. I think you're a person, like a quiet person who doesn't like to talk too much." The vault pulses once. Cian grins. I knew it. Inside the archive, Malus completes her final recalibration. The relay system linking the vault, the spiral archive, and the newly restored observatories now functions seamlessly. The data streams no longer flicker with instability. Instead, they flow with precision and calm. Time once hunted and hoarded now moves freely among them. She writes a final note in her personal log. Balance does not mean stillness. It means presence without force. Then she closes the terminal and steps outside. The wind carries the scent of night flowers opening their petals in response to the cooling air. She walks without direction, trusting the path. Velda stands at the far edge of the garden. No guards follow her now. No protocols bind her movements. She wears no armor, no cloak, no title. Her presence alone carries more weight than any formal rank. When people see her, they do not salute. They nod. She watches the light fade from the hills, the sun sinking slowly beyond the horizon. Each sunset feels slightly different now, not because the sky has changed, but because her heart carries a new rhythm, a rhythm that matches the gentle pulse of the vault. She walks toward it as the last rays of light touch the garden. The blossoms around the platform sway in time with her footsteps. At the center, she places her hand on the stone. Her voice is soft. Kyle, we've made it. There is no immediate answer, only silence. But then a warmth flows through the ground, rising into her hand. A pulse. Yes. She smiles, eyes closed. I don't need to hear your voice. I carry it. Another pulse follows, not strong, not demanding. Just present. I wish I had told you more when you were still in the flesh, she says. A long pause. Then a new pulse. Not memory, not acknowledgement. Something different. Gratitude. The final integration of the colony and Virelia proceeds without tension. Two worlds that once diverged have become one. Shared schools, shared names, shared futures. The convergence Kale spoke of in his final entries has begun not through technology or force, but through daily choices. No ceremonies mark this moment, only continuity. One history where once there were two. At the Spiral Archive, the caretakers gather for the first remembrance cycle. Not a holiday, not a vigil, a gentle observation of what is past and what was chosen instead. People leave memory tokens beneath the vault. Stones, words, drawings, pieces of music, everything they could never say aloud. Mela stands at the edge of the platform with a quiet pride. Her mind always questioning finds no need to explain this piece. It simply is. Velda stands beside her. She does not speak. She places one small item at the base of the vault. A blade, the same ceremonial weapon she once drew when she thought Kale was her enemy. She sets it down with reverence. I no longer need to protect you, she says. The vault glows gently. Malus looks at her. What now? Velda smiles. We protect the peace he made instead. As the last light of the day touches the vault, a soft vibration rolls through the garden. All present stop what they are doing, not out of fear, in respect. The vault pulses once. A voice follows. Soft, distant, familiar. I remember all of you. The garden remains silent. Then a second pulse. I am not alone. And finally a third. You never were. Then the vault settles. No more pulses come, just quiet. A quiet that hums with presence, with memory, with the certainty that the balance once threatened has become something greater. Not held, not enforced. Lived. The story of Kale Marin is not one of conquest. It is not the tale of a man who sought greatness or of a world saved by violence. It is the quiet unfolding of a question once feared by many. What if the fracture we fear is already inside us? Kale did not answer it with certainty. He answered it by surrendering to the possibility that healing meant becoming the wound. By entering the vault, he did not seal away his destiny. He expanded it. He became part of something larger than the world, larger than time. Through Velda's loyalty, Melis's curiosity, and the collective memory of Virelia Kale's presence continues, not as a leader or legend, as a whisper at the edge of thought, as a warmth when silence feels too heavy. He exists not to be remembered, but to remind that love, even when left unsaid, reshapes history, that silence can carry truth louder than any voice. That balance is not perfection, it is choosing again each day to remain. In the end, Kale Mirren did not return, because he never truly left, and in every step forward his memory pulses quietly, like the vault that holds him, steady, still, present.